Quarantine is now in effect. Return to your quarters. Remain in your quarters until instructed to leave. Quarantine is now in effect.
Oh, Stephen.
Ben.
Since we've been prevented by the leader from going outside, and we have to distance ourselves from each other, I haven't been out on the Segway in days. I'm going bloody nuts here.
Wait. Ben.
What?
Are we doing the podcast or not? There's like a whole premise with the podcast, right? It's like a post-apocalyptic world. Like, we're not supposed to be talking about like our actual daily life.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the compound. I haven't been out on the Segway because of the mysterious disease that isn't zombiedom that's sweeping through the compound.
Wait, hang on, cut. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be unprofessional right now.
Okay.
What is the premise of this podcast? I thought you had like a premise and we're supposed to kind of go with it, and it's like it doesn't have anything to do with our normal day-to-day lives.
I don't understand, Steve. Premise? What are you talking about? We are on a compound in the post-apocalyptic world, and now suddenly in the last week there's been a disease running through the compound, and we've been told to stay inside, and all I can see is the grinning face of Meeple Pete's frozen head.
That's because I'm holding it like in the crook of my arm, but this is like all actually happening.
The thing is, you're not social distancing from you're not social distancing from Meeple Pete's frozen head here, Steve. You know what the leader will do if he gets you?
Oh, he's immune.
Meeple Pete's frozen head?
He's immune.
What's immune?
Oh, yeah.
Is that like a moon monster?
Something like that, yeah. He's like a moon monster, and as we all know, moon monsters can't catch human viruses because they're from Earth. I mean, did you take biology in secondary comprehensive grammar Eton school or whatever you do in England?
It was called coal mining education. Where I was, we had 3 lumps of coal a day to eat, and they taught us about drilling. No, you can't have any more. I mean, the thing is, there's no bloody toilet paper in the compound anymore. The leaders just hoarded all the toilet paper. I mean, it's all right for us because we've got a detachable head. But, you know, for the rest of the people, they can walk around with spongy bum-bums.
When was there toilet paper? When I arrived, I was told that day, like, sorry, we're out of toilet paper. You're just going to have to, you know, find alternative means. You've had toilet paper this entire time?
I eat it. Sometimes I sit down and I get a couple of bits of bread, and then I put some butterie. Well, it's butterie simulacrum, and then I whack a couple of sheets of toilet paper in the middle. Lovely toilet paper sandwich. It's what I used to eat down the council estate when I was a chidler.
Is it good?
I mean, define good, Steve. When I was a kid, we were lucky of it. That if I didn't eat the old toilet paper sandwich, my mum would go, "There's kids in Africa, you know, that wipe their ass on that. How does that make you feel? Wiping their ass on your food." That's why she voted UKIP in her later years.
So I've noticed that the average number of meals that we get at the compound every day is 0.
Right.
So
that's right.
Fucking toilet paper. Wait, what? Sorry?
Well, the point is, if you're one of the designated baddos, you don't get fed. Whereas if you're a how do I put it? If you're one of the special ones, like me, you get, you know, at least a meal a day. Toilet paper sandwich one day, dead cat roll the next.
Do you have any idea how much time I spend picking maggots off of Meeple Pete's head?
Sure, because you take him out of the cryo tube. You should leave him in the cryo tube. That's what cryo tube is. I mean, his brain's probably good for nothing now. You could just bloody eat it.
I mean, this is all I have to eat, though. No, I mean, I can't eat okay. The head itself must maintain its integrity.
Right.
I hope you understand that. There will be no eating of Meeple Pete's head.
Is this a religious thing?
I mean, you might call it that. I don't call it a religion.
What'd you call it?
I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest. Not with someone who doesn't understand. You're not an initiate, okay? I'm not even supposed to be talking to you. I mean, you're not even really supposed to be looking at the head of Meeple Pete. You happened to catch me while I was on my way to the sanctum.
Well, you can't go to the bloody sanctum. We're social distancing. The leader has told us we have to stay in bloody doors. That's why I'm in here with you in this incredibly stinky room looking at the fucking disembodied head of Meeple Pete that's slowly thawing. I don't want to be here. I want to be on my Segway, tackle in the wind, feeling free, asking about board games. I've been wearing bloody trousers for 3 days now. My nadgers are starting to coagulate. This is, you don't understand. I'm going nutsos.
So what you're saying is you're not coping well.
I mean, to be honest, by my usual demeanour, this is actually fairly calm.
I have a real question to ask you, Ben.
Okay, good. This is exciting.
I think I know the answer.
I like real questions.
Yeah, I don't want to be presumptuous. Yeah. Do you consider yourself an extrovert?
I vacillate. I use vacillate to stop because I've put on a bit of weight through the lack of movement, and so the top of my thighs rub together and they get a little chafed. So I use vacillate on them so my skin don't get all dry and pain.
God, I really hope they come up with a fucking vacillation soon for this pandemic.
Well, I tell you. So you want to know whether I'm an?
If you believe in them.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a conspiracy by the leader to keep us indoors so he can hoard all the bog paper. I tell you what, those toilet paper companies, though, they are doing fucking roaring trade. Roaring trade, Stephen.
Ben, these people peddling vacillation conspiracies and pandemic conspiracies, they just want to keep us divided so that we can't get together and do what it is we do best.
Do you know what the worst thing? What's that?
I was going to say, which is what? Playing games or talking about playing games?
Well, I've barely been able to ask people questions about board games this week because we've been stuck in here together. You know what I mean? And the thing is about, you know what the thing about conspiracy thought is?
What's that?
No, you get some people, I don't know, morons, cast iron fucking idiots, like proper stupid idiots. Now, I'm going to give you a sort of proto example of an idiot, right? Mm-hmm. Let's pick a name out of the ether. What should we call our proto idiot? I don't know. First name that comes to me, Miguel, for instance, right? So we've got Miguel. He's a fucking moron. And he watches fucking YouTube and he sees some fucking stupid conspiracy. And then the full Dunning-Kruger kicks in. And not only is Miguel the fucking moron sure that this whole thing, that all of these people dying and us being forced into our homes and all the doctors and nurses getting sick and, the world economy collapsing is not only is he sure that that's true, but also he feels so much better than us because he's privy to some knowledge that we're just too thick to be able to grasp. And the point is with something like flat Earth, right? The point is with something like flat Earth is it's completely innocuous, it's totally harmless, they're kooks, and that's fine. I mean, it does sort of highlight a lack of education, I think, and a sort of increased paranoia in the populace, but basically it's harmless. But our proto-idiot like Miguel and people like him, the fact that they are peddling this bullshit conspiracy that this virus that is infecting the compound is just a fabrication is putting everyone in fucking danger. Because the point is, right, even if It is all a conspiracy, and all the doctors and nurses are all part of it, because of course people who get paid 30 grand a year are all part of a massive government conspiracy. Even if that is true, stay indoors. It doesn't fucking help to go out. And because the point is, you just do a Pascal's wager on this. Because if you stay in, you're fine. If you go, and if you don't stay in, and it turns out to be true, well then you're potentially killing people. So, apropos or nothing, this is nothing to do with a conversation I had on the WhatsApps this week. But, don't be a conspiracy bellend, Steve.
So the point here is not even that, like, the virus itself is a conspiracy, but this idea that the people who are dying from it, they were going to die anyway. So what's really the point of all these lockdowns, and what's the point of staying home? What's the point of obeying authority? Because if you obey authority,
you're a sheeple.
What's the word of the decade, Ben? You're a cuck.
Right.
Listening to the media, listening to the politicians. There is a different world out there that only a certain privileged few can see and understand. An entirely different, overlay of knowledge that only they have access to. And
no, get on QAnon.
We're privileged to walk among them because once in a while they deign to reveal to us the truth that we can't see.
But they know we won't follow that truth, Steve, because we're just sheeple and we're just stupid.
Oh, they're fine with telling us anyway, though. I think they must know that we don't want to hear it, but they say it anyway. I mean,
say something. Say you've got another friend, right? Their friend is.
Can you pick another random name for this one so we don't incriminate anybody?
I'm going to pick a random name that is actually anonymous for this one because I like and respect the person who I'm going to talk about. So we have a person called Roberto, okay, and Roberto writes a message that is very heartfelt, that is very concerned. Roberto is a person who suffers from an autoimmune disease. Roberto is someone whose cousin's husband, I think, just recently died from coronavirus. And as they're Italian, their family doesn't get a funeral. The body is taken away, it is cremated, and the only thing they get is an urn delivered to them. And then, our knowledgeable friend Miguel says, oh, well, I hope we all manage to survive another flu season. I mean, even if you think this is all bollocks, show some fucking human decency. Just a little bit of human fucking decency over someone who is clearly in pain at the situation. You know what I mean?
This is what I've never understood about people like this. They pose as a kind of intellectual, right? But the material that forms the basis of their knowledge, right? It's always this this random compilation of garbage from. I mean, nowadays it's YouTube. In the past, it would have been maybe underground zines or something. Right. And
pirate radio, that sort of guff.
Yeah. They want to show it to you, right? They want to reveal it to you, maybe because I don't know what the motivation is. They want to enlarge their group, or it just they have this feeling of power, right? Because knowledge is power. If you feel that you know something that other people don't, then you feel that you have some kind of power. But that power doesn't mean anything unless other people acknowledge the truth of what you're saying or the validity of what you're saying. And you can really gaslight people with this shit. I mean, if you're good at it, you only have to, if you have one fact that you can hang all of this on, then you can spin out any kind of theory that you like, and the gullible might start to doubt themselves. And if you push them enough, they'll doubt themselves more.
Yeah, and I think it's super interesting that, there's two reactions. Either you believe them, which is the least likely, or you sort of do what I do and get sort of angry with them. And actually, I think they like that too, because they can then feel superior over the people who simply aren't in possession of the fact. because they refuse to be in possession of the fact, because Fat John on YouTube, who thinks contrails are turning you gay, of course is far more reliable than the NASA-funded shills that are treating the coronavirus, and those evil doctors who are in the hospitals lying about coronavirus because of the Jews or something. I mean, it is absolutely bloody incredible that people can be so gullible and supercilious at the same time.
Well, why is it that you like to engage with them? I mean, I guess I probably do so. Like I engage with people who try and peddle like holistic medicine to me, or like homeopathic cures for things. Like, this drives me up the wall. This kind of thing, I don't know. Like, everything that they say is so riddled with logical fallacies and like these like just so stories. Like, it's not even like worth expending the effort to try and argue with them, because you're just going to end up like talking in circles with them. It's just an exercise in frustration if you try to argue with them. I guess maybe you don't really argue with them so much as you try to like shut them down with like just like
intense
dead-on
abuse. Intense abuse, Steve.
And I think this is probably what you have to do. You cannot credit their point of view as one of like many possible alternatives, especially not now. I mean, I used to get this way about people who would deny that Shakespeare wrote his plays. This kind of thing would infuriate me, but like ultimately it's harmless. You know, we can have like an interesting conversation. Well, interesting for them maybe. For me, you know, very frustrating. But there weren't lives at stake. And there are lives at stake here. And just saying things like this, it's like shouting fire in a crowded theater.
Well, the point is, the reason you need to shut these people down is because they've already crossed the Rubicon. They're not savable. They're appealing to their sense of logic is pointless because clearly they don't have any. What you need to do in shutting these kind of people down is encourage those people who are sat on the fence, who maybe think, oh, is there anything to this, to walk away. And I don't do it with any sort of logical argument. I do it with abuse and mocking and calling them idiots. And the thing is, someone the other week sort of said, I was having a sort of argument upon outside before God, this premise is amazing. Outside on the square, and I was talking about dangerous religious beliefs. Now, I happen to believe the Abrahamic faiths inherently are dangerous, even the moderate ones. But we're talking about dangerous religious beliefs, and I was asserting that ridicule and humour is a vital tool in rendering dangerous beliefs toothless.
Well, no dangerous belief worth its salt can't stand up to ridicule and abuse. So, right. I think fair play.
Because the point is, I think the ultimate perfect world goal is to disabuse people of their stupid beliefs, right? But that's in a perfect world. In reality, that's probably not going to happen. What you're trying to do is limit the spread of that belief, and you should use every weapon in your arsenal. And the point is, people won't join a movement if they think the movement's fucking dumb, and they think the people who are part of this movement are fucking dumb and uncool. It is amazing how the concept of uncool can push our behaviours in certain directions. And so, I mean, I'm not changing the world, but I think if you come across people who are clearly spouting moronic shit, people who believe in homeopathy, for instance, or not people who believe in homeopathy, but people who are selling homeopathic remedies, you should ridicule them. You should make them look like idiots, and you should make it clear that what they're doing is to be ridiculed, because people fear ridicule almost more than anything, I think, right?
Yeah, and you can often you might not want to do that, right? Because you don't want to seem like a jerk, and we should all like respect each other and different points of view and so on and so forth. But when you actually argue with these people, there's no real argument. There's just like these appeals to authority. Oh, right. Maybe I'm sorry if you're not willing to entertain alternative sources of information. You know, maybe you don't know everything. It is completely just like this red herring style of trying to get away from the actual point. Like, what is the premise that you're suggesting? All right, what is your proof? And the burden of proof, I would say, would definitely be on someone, for example, trying to argue that coronavirus is not actually a thing, that is not actually decimating the global population at the moment, including the most vulnerable among us. What is your proof that this is not happening? Oh, I saw a video on YouTube that suggested maybe it's not happening. Okay, so what sources does that piece of quote unquote proof for you rely upon? And let's have like a real intellectual debate. But no, they don't want to have a real intellectual debate. They want to have a fucking pissing contest. And who's interested in that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so off the subject
well, look at that. Oh, God damn it, Ben.
Look, frankly,
Meeple Pete's crying. The head of Meeple Pete is crying now.
That is not tears. That's cryo fluid coming out of his orbital socket. That ain't tears. Taste it.
I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that for later. I'm saving it for later.
Anyway,
hang on a second. Oh God, I can't believe there's so much of it.
Well, I mean, you know, you need a lot of cryo fluid for that head. Anyway, but I did manage in spite of the quarantine. So basically, I put an announcement on the tannoy. I said, you know, if you want to talk about this week's question, can you mind transmit me some answers? And surprisingly, one great thing about this apocalypse is that everyone's become telepathic. I'm gonna send you a message with my mind, Steve. Are you ready?
Yep.
Yeah. Are you steady?
Yep.
Are you bloody steady?
I'm ready. Send it. Okay, I didn't need to know that.
Yeah, and
I didn't need to know that either.
You know, and the point is, some would say, well, why are you...
You can stop now.
All right.
Seriously, you can stop. Okay, I got it. I get the fucking point.
And people say to me, why do you transmit on a tannoy then, if everyone could just hear what you say? Because sometimes the old way, Steve, why do we listen to vinyl when we can listen to MP3? Why?
Because it's obnoxious?
Exactly. And there's nothing I like more than obnoxious. Anyway, so the question this week, Steve, was, what keeps you at the table? And I said, what is it about games that keeps you interested? Why don't you stop? What are the most valuable things about gaming? So, you know, in these times of not being not being able to look at each other across a table and notice that we've got parsley in our gums, and Johnny to the left smells a bit like wee, and Bobby to the right has probably shat himself.
I remember parsley.
But what is it, Steve, about games that keeps you interested? And you're someone who, in the 90s, was a big gamer. You had a bit of a furlough, and then you came back with a vengeance. What is it? What keeps you at the table?
Okay. So, you're right there? Do you have
No, just a bit of clag in my throat. It's a bit sexy. No. It's my sex cough.
This could be evidence in the future. One of our mutual gaming friends today suggested, since we haven't been able to meet for a while, we've only been able to communicate telepathically, suggested that we find some alternative means to play games. Recently, we've been able to stitch together a few Raspberry Pis and get a simulacrum of what we used to call the internet working around here. And someone actually found some old version of the what is this website that you can not tabletop simulator? There's a
game Village OMG.
Yeah, so Game Village apparently offers a number of popular board games that you can play virtually. Yeah. Have I managed to like spread this thin slab of a premise over the toast of our
frankly, Steve, the job you're doing is incredible. It's incredible.
I'm working hard for you. I'm working hard for the listeners.
You're an incredible man.
And I have to say, like, I find this prospect completely unappealing.
Yeah, me
do
too.
not want my board gaming experience to be mediated the way everything else is mediated these days. What keeps me coming to the table is that there is a table to come to.
Right.
That they're like, board games are so delightfully and rebelliously analog.
Absolutely.
In a world in which every fucking thing has been digitalized. And I'm talking about, I'm someone I'm a professional software developer. I've always loved technology. I've always been enthusiastic about it, but it has gone too far. Like, every aspect of our lives has been turned into an app to be monetized by someone else. And whatever you want to say about board games being a commercial pursuit or an industry of its own, I don't care. I'm putting that aside for a moment, because at the end of the day, it is still something that causes me to be in a room with people.
Horrendous people, but people nevertheless.
Can you imagine that board gaming is so good that I'm willing to put up with these people?
Yeah.
Board gamers.
So I'm going to tell you a story, and this happened when I first got into gaming, and it's about sort of 6 or 7 years ago now, but I still think it pertains. I bought a game, Yado, and I loved it. And they brought out a promo, and I didn't get the promo at Essen, and I wanted to get the promo. And so I wrote to the company and said, is the promo available? And they wrote and they said, no, it's not available.
The Yado promo.
Exactly, the promo for Yado, yeah. And so then I just on a whim wrote to one of the designers, because I found them on Board Game Geek, and I just wrote and I said, hey, I don't suppose I could get a promo from you. I could buy one. And he just said, don't be stupid. And he put one in an envelope for me, and he sent it to me, and a couple of days later I got this promo, right? Now, you may be asking why this story is relevant. And I think it's relevant because it's still... the industry of hobby board games still feels that way, right? The whole world has become this rampant savanna of capitalist gain. Everyone's trying to make money all the time. Every industry is cutthroat. Departments are getting cut left, right and centre, and yet board gaming still feels a little ad hoc. It still feels like a community, regardless of Asmodee desperately trying to squeeze any humanity out of it. And I think part of that is this willful rejection of the modern digital age, this willful rejection of the notion that every step you take on the street is monetized. There still feels like a willingness to shake off the oppression of the silicone and walk into a room and put wood, plastic and cardboard on a table and say, for the next 2 hours, all of that shit can just go away, and we can feel like we live as humans have done for centuries. Or is that a load of old bollocks?
No, do you know what it is about board games? They require effort. Like, really, every board game every board game that we play is an occasion, because it requires effort to put together a meeting of people. People have to travel. They have to gather, come together. You have to learn the board game. You have to set it up. You have to unbag all of the pieces, and sometimes there are a lot of pieces. You have to sort the cards. You have to count things out. You have to give everybody their starting materials. You have to do a lot of setup. I mean, it is something that for some games can take the better part of an afternoon, if not longer. It is a lot of effort, especially compared to what we're willing to put up with these days in terms of effort. Like, we have instantaneous distraction available in our pockets. I mean,
at all times.
Yes, at all times. We can play any number of games. In addition to having all of the world's information available to us, we can take pictures and share those pictures and comment on things and like things and chat with people and watch videos and make videos. All of these things are just, they're feeding our desperation for an endorphin hit every second, all the time, and yet we are able to carve out of our lives a space for something like a board game that really requires not just like the sort of physical effort, but the intellectual effort, the social effort, the effort of coming together and actually doing it. And even if it doesn't seem like it, it is an occasion. It's an occasion that you can have on a regular basis that's as much of an occasion as maybe the sort of dinner party that you only have once in a while, or even somewhat large. Like how often do you go to a wedding? Once in a while. But board gamers do this maybe multiple times a week. They go to the sort of like the emotional expense, that the expense in time to engage in this effort, and for some reason we want to do this, and it's rewarding to do this, to put in the effort and to get a reward out of that effort. And when it works out, and I think I can say that we're lucky that the games that we were able to play together right up until we had to stop a few weeks ago, all amazing, like really great experiences. And you come away from having expended that effort thinking, God, well worth it. Like, so you get so much more out of it than what you put into it in the end.
It is, yeah, and it's all about that thing, right? It's a hoary old cliche, but anything that's worth anything takes effort, right? And board games, when it comes to recreation, which is what they are not the fast food of recreation, right? They are a meal that takes time to prepare, and you enjoy it and you feel more nourished afterwards. And I think that's a really valuable thing. So Ben Davey sent me a mind message, Benny Kenobi, and he said this: good board games provide a heady balance of stimulation, intellectual, social, and tactile. It stimulates, I find the word stimulate quite sexy. It stimulates the mind through puzzle solving and immersive experience. It's a positive social experience, but not just with good friends, but can enable social interaction with strangers and the strange. Plus, I just love playing with toys. I wonder if he's talking about stimulating toys. 3 hours of TV watching or computer gaming can leave me feeling dissatisfied and somehow sullied. 3 hours of board gaming can leave me feel enriched and have me reflecting on it in a positive way for days or even weeks afterwards. Explain this to me, Steve. We spent an afternoon playing Roads and Boats, 5 or 6 hours playing Roads and Boats, and I
recently found one of one of the chits on the floor recently. I almost vacuumed it up.
And I never felt that kind of dirty sort of fatigue that you get after you binge a load of TV shows. Why is that? Why do you think that you can feel sort of like you've spent time valuably after you've played games?
So one thing that he said is something about experiencing the strange, right? Social interaction with strangers and the strange.
Yeah.
I wonder what he means by that. I don't exactly know.
Because board games are weird, I think, is what he's saying.
Is it just that board games are weird? I mean, so Roads and Boats in particular is kind of a strange game.
I think he's talking about board gamers as opposed to board games.
Okay, so the board gamers themselves are strange. Yeah, that's for sure. Maybe you need to rephrase your question a little bit.
Are you criticizing my question asking ability? You know I do get paid for this.
No.
The leader is giving me sheets of kitchen roll to wipe my bottom on at the moment for my question asking ability.
I'm stalling so I can come up with a better answer.
Okay. So rephrase it to the question that you wish had been asked so it suits your answer.
Please, a little bit more stalling.
I once spoke to a flower. Its name was Roberto. And I said, hello, Roberto. And he said, I'm leaning towards the sun, Ben. And I said, the sun? Why? And he said, because it gives me energy. So I ripped all of Roberto's petals off and his leaves. And I said, come on then, use your chloroplasts now, you bastard.
Okay, I thought of a better response.
Good.
Fuck you.
So I was speaking
No.
to.
No. I got one. I think that a lot of us live extremely repetitive lives, especially if you have a regular day job where the rhythms are largely the same. You find comfort in this. This is not to say that it's a miserable experience, but there's a lot of repetition in your life. This can extend into family life for some people, I imagine. And when you play a game, it is a portal into a different world where you get to be someone else, but it's not quite like role-playing as someone else. You get to experience a different realm with different rules, and you get to exercise your brain in a different way. And I think that this can leave a lasting impression. It's a kind of joy that can grow in the fullness of time. It isn't one of these like smartphone-induced endorphin hits. It's actually something that's more lasting than that. It's more satisfying than that in the long run. And then you go back to your repetitive life, and it can actually sustain you in that.
I have a theory.
I think there's something to that.
I have a theory. I wrote a piece recently. I released a piece sort of talking about being on my own in the kitchen. And human beings are evolutionarily predisposed to being together in a space together. We are a gregarious animal, and that is our evolutionary strength, our intelligence, and our ability to work together. And I think this might sound tremendously poncy, but I think any length of solitude or any lack of interaction with something, and this is what watching a lot of telly is a long sustained period of pure passivity, is sort of going against our programming. It's going against our circuitry, and so there's some sense of us that feels that, whereas games, fundamentally, even though you are testing yourself against yourself, it's the purpose of games is to promote interaction between people, and that is nourishing to us, because I think it's nourishing to us in our core. This is what we are designed to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering lately if you're a gamer. I mean, if you're the kind of person who identifies that way, right? Like, you think of yourself as a gamer. How painful is it right now that you just can't play games? I mean, you might be playing games. I haven't been, and it's painful.
It absolutely, no question. It is. I've realized how much I've grown to depend on, having a wide palette of people to play games with at my fingertips. And now, and you got it right when you talked about mediation. Having the screen between you and the experience ruins the experience. And I can't wait until the leader lifts the quarantine so we can start again. Anyway, I was talking to Phil Campo, at Phil Campo, and he said, which I think it pertains for a lot of people, if I'm being totally honest, I'm not the most sociable person, he said. I love meeting people and I love talking with people. The problem is that I often forget to ask them questions about themselves. I'm always willing to talk about me and what's going on in my life when they ask, but for some reason it's just never occurred to me to return the question back to them. Board games help with that because they give me a common ground to talk about with people that I enjoy talking with. And I think this is why board games attract the introvert, right? They attract the strange, if you want to use that term, because the beauty of having a game in the middle of the table, right, is that you don't have to constantly talk. There is another distraction. No one is going to think you're weird if you're looking down at your player board. And, I mean, you asked me the question, do I see myself as an extrovert? And, of course I am. Are you? And does having a game board on the table to some degree, relieve the burden of small talk.
Yeah, I think I'm with Phil Campo on this to some extent. I don't love talking about myself at all, and I will often ask people questions about themselves to defer that as much as possible. But I get the sentiment very well. I am totally an introvert. I don't think I come across that way to people, and often people don't even believe this about me, that I'm an introvert. They think I must be an extrovert simply because I'm like functional, or I can be functional in social situations, which must mean that I'm an extrovert. I don't know how much credence you want to lend to the introvert extrovert spectrum, but my understanding of it is that it doesn't mean that you can't socialize with people if you're an introvert. It just means that you eventually get exhausted from it. But if you're an introvert, but if you're an extrovert, you are stimulated by it. You want it. It's like a drug to you. The more you can be around people, the better. It makes you more of who you are. I need to recharge. Board games are a really nice middle ground for me, because the game, I mean, talking about mediation, the game kind of mediates the social interaction to some extent, right? It provides structure. I can focus on the game if I want to focus on the game. I can banter if I want to banter. It has a beginning and it has an end. And when the game is over, we sort of like stand around and look at each other, we pack up and we go away. And I don't have to face these interminable social situations that I often fear finding myself in, where I don't know when it's going to be over, when I can leave, when I should leave. This has always been my experience at parties. I feel like I should be enjoying myself when I'm not. When I'm playing a game, it's just brilliant if you're this kind of person, because you have something to attach to, like something that helps you through the experience, but also enriches the experience and actually helps you communicate with the other people at the table and make connections with them. And it's not just connections over your mutual love of games, but it's like a real human connection that the game has facilitated.
And that's that's why you don't feel as dirty, because it's facilitated what we want, which is human interaction. And I think...
And if that's feeling dirty, Ben, I don't want to be clean.
Right on. So I was speaking to Richard Trout at Norkel, and he...
What a great name. What a great name. Richard Trout,
I know.
That's this guy's name?
I think that's his real name, Richard Trout.
Richard Trout. This sounds like a Kurt Vonnegut name.
I think there's something fishy going on, though, Steve. You know what I mean?
Oh, you really caught me there.
Well, I mean, his answer really hooked me.
Gil
Hover is a game designer, that's correct. The thing is, I think the scale of Richard's answer is really high.
Oh, your jokes are just like bait for the intellect, Ben.
That's right. I can't wait. I can't wait to read out the answer into your brain and fill it.
I'd like to say this conversation is going swimmingly.
Yes. Anyway, Richard Trout at Norkel said dopamine, which I think means drugs. He says, like all good experiences, a good game encourages the dopamine to flow, then cut it short at the end, when you each just want another turn, or perhaps another game, and that brings me back to the table for next time. Now,
he's talking about that Robert De Niro movie Awakenings, where they gave everybody L-dopamine to wake them up, and then when you threw the tennis ball at the old woman, then she would catch it.
Exactly, catch it.
And Robin Williams was in that movie.
Exactly. He's talking about, it's a coded message about Awakenings, which is a very sad film with Robert De Niro. But
what's the first thing that he did when he awakened?
Listen to Wagner.
No, he shagged the nurse.
That was the first thing he did. He didn't just wake up and go, "All right, love," and she went, "Oh, all right, Bobby," and started shagging.
Oh God, the first thing I would do is totally listen to Wagner, and the last thing, by the way.
Anyway, I think this brings us back to that thing I love about games, right? I played, just before the quarantine kicked in, I had a 2-player game of Le Havre. And why La Havre is such a beautifully designed game, and why Concordia is such a beautifully designed game, is what those games do, right, is they lead you down a path, and in those last few turns, you're just going, oh, I wish I had just a little bit longer. I'm not going to be able to do everything I wanted. And that's a beautiful design, because what you don't want in a game is to feel mastery, because the game then becomes futile. What you want is that desire to achieve next time, to get better next time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you can also feel at the same time like, I really did well there. I really the pieces came together. Or if you think of a game sometimes as like, I don't know if it's like a puzzle or I don't know. You have lots of things in motion and they're all coalescing toward a common goal, and you don't always reach that goal. And that's when you have that one more turn feeling.
Right.
But every so often you do reach that goal. You get the card that you were hoping to get, that the player before you didn't hate draft off of you, or you get to do the action that you really wanted to do, and then it's just like it's like dominoes falling. All of the other things that you had planned are able to activate in turn, and everything comes together, and that feeling of satisfaction games can provide.
And that brings you back to dopamine. The human brain is such a wonderful thing when serotonin and dopamine is flowing, and you just feel anchored in the world. And I think I'm getting...
This conversation's making me feel anchored in the world right now. I'm like so full of dopamine, I can't even tell you, Ben, just talking about this subject.
Well, exactly. I mean, the thing is, I think because I haven't really seen people in days now, I'm feeling a little sentimental about human beings, which is a terrible thing, because within weeks of this quarantine being lifted, I'm just going to go back to hating everyone again. Anyway, well, it was lovely chatting to you and the head of Meeple Pete, and I imagine running the religion at this time is pretty hard, especially as I've heard Dan Hughes' religion is also picking up pace. But I don't envisage...
I'm sorry.
What?
Sorry, what? What's that?
You must have heard of Dan
Hughes'
You must have heard of Dan Hughes' Edwardian religion that he's implementing on the compound.
And frankly, it sounds ridiculous to me. I'm sure it's like a minor cult, or at best a phase that a few misguided souls are passing.
Well, the last thing I heard is it was picking up real ground. And the quarantine has slowed it down, obviously, but it seems very popular. And I don't envisage a religious war happening on the compound as a very cheap plot mechanic anytime soon, Steve.
I mean, it doesn't seem very likely to me. Not if you're trying to, create some drama out of nothing for no particular reason.
Well, anyway, considering we're having to share this room for the next few weeks, I'd appreciate it if for the next 10 minutes you'd turn and face the wall, because I'm going to have a big ol' wank. Will the solitude drive Ben into even more disgustingness? Will Steve snap and beat him to death with the thawing head of Meeple Pete? Go to Board Game Geek Guild 3209 to find out. Or, if you're a real sucker for punishment, listen to the next exciting episode of The Guild.